Welcome, residents, to the Dr. DC podcast. My name is producer Richard, and across from me is the doctor himself.
Hello,
I'm back.
baby.
That's right.
Yeah, that was good. I think the energy is good.
Look,
Yeah.
listen to Ghostface if you want energy.
Yeah, now it's the second thing we're recording
Yeah,
tonight.
Get ready to curl up on a bed.
Yeah.
Watch somebody.
Yeah, at the foot of the bed. Ruh-roh.
I've been not doing great.
Yeah.
But
Talk us through it.
I've been back
As much
to
as you want to.
like that's ever been a fucking part.
No,
of
you're
this.
right. Just talk us through it.
Yeah.
I don't give a shit what you want.
I wouldn't be here if this was about doing what I want.
Fair.
This has never been about what I want.
I mean, when you put it like that.
It's about facilitating what you want, and that makes me happy, I think. At least you've convinced me of that.
Nothing's clear anymore.
Yeah. After you begged on your knees on Christmas for me to stay, I don't really know why I'm doing it anymore.
Yeah. At least stick around until Nutmas.
Really need to find time to deal with that. So I've been kind of sick in one way or another since like December, but I've been like back to back, like flu, COVID. I'm not really sure what it's been.
Yeah.
But if you've heard when I was on the episodes, I didn't sound great, and only got worse.
Yeah.
I went to LA and it got worse.
Yeah.
Yeah, just crazy that going to America.
Was
made
it
me.
bad while you were there?
Or
Or was it like you went and then you came back, but it was like having traveled?
I was
then?
sick going there.
Right.
Like my throat was still hurting and stuff. Like I was not better when I went there.
So your LA trip was a super spreader event, is what you're saying.
I'm pretty sure Kyle Clark got me sick, to be honest, because
Sure.
he was sick when I got there.
Right.
And he had like just started getting sick.
Right.
So I'm almost
And
certain.
then you tongue kissed a bunch.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that was the last time he and I were in the same space.
Yeah.
And so I think that's part of the reason. But so I don't know if it was COVID or not, but I've been basically sick for a month. I mean,
that's on top of your
like all the other health stuff.
Everything else.
Yeah. Which is causing the sickness to take longer to heal. But which I actually have an appointment about tomorrow. But yeah, it's not been great. I've been not feeling good.
Yeah, fair.
But you've been manning the fort, I guess.
Why the I guess?
Because I don't listen.
Why you gotta throw the fucking stink at the end?
Well, because if anybody has problems, you know where to point them, you know?
Yeah, I mean...
Report to me with your issues.
Oh, no. They all fucking just air their grievances in the fucking doc squad.
Since when?
I hope Richard's back. Maybe this is the last... Just hand the show over to someone else.
Yeah, Chad's been begging.
I saw all these comments about, like, give it to Jaffe and...
Oh, there you go.
Give it to Josh and Jaffe.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's not bad.
I mean, eventually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, they'll take it.
Yeah. When I'm ready.
Oh, okay. And when is that going to be?
I mean, listen, maybe when I have some post-Nutmas clarity.
Oh my God, this podcast disgusts me.
Yeah, I think I need to bury it.
Yeah, I should never have done this.
Yeah. I'd rather guest on a better version of it.
I'll tell you, ghosting this podcast is great. You should try it.
I mean, it is pretty good.
Yeah. No, it's nice. Each week we talk about the weird and wonderful world of DC while fielding questions from listeners like you.
Baby. And sometimes we give health updates.
Yeah, more often than not lately.
Yeah, or just generally.
Yeah, where are you at?
I'm mostly good.
Besides the coughing.
Coughing's mostly gone. I mean, you made me laugh very hard when we were recording Ghostfacers, which would probably make me cough anyway.
Sure. Yeah.
So no, I'm mostly good now. For the most part.
Yeah, I'm
on like 3 puffers and the occasional painkiller.
Oh, is that prescribed, right?
Yep. It was prescribed.
Oh, okay. Yeah. All of them that you've taken.
They have all been prescribed
to you.
Well,
their prescription medication.
Listen.
That's what you asked your officer.
Ask a stupid question.
Your stupid fucking answer. This episode is about a thing that I just assumed we had already done, which happens more and more. I think
I think we've talked around some of these things, but haven't necessarily always like given them an episode.
Look, when you get this close to 500 episodes, I'm surprised we haven't.
You know, like Metamorpho was a good, like, how have we not
Yes,
kind of episode, right?
totally. Mirror villains.
Yeah. Not, as I, like, specified, not Mirror Master. Not talking about that fuck.
Oh, no?
No, talking about, like, villains or adversaries that, like, are, like, the mirror of a hero or whatever.
So this is going to be a really, really reflective episode.
Yes, but hopefully not self-reflective because we are intended to be a comedy podcast.
No, subscribe to the fucking Patreon if you want that shit.
Yeah, in January or any other
I mean,
month.
yeah, or all at time. I mean, maybe not. Yeah, probably this week. We'll get there.
Yeah, I'm sure this week will be darker than we wanted.
Or you're not going to like it because we'll talk a lot about sports.
I can be both.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Two things can happen.
Yeah. The episode is called Sports / I Want to Die.
Ice hockey and other suicidal things.
Listen, as a Leafs fan, they're the same.
I mean, look. I don't know if you fucking saw that game last night.
That's one thought.
I don't know if you saw the fucking Oilers game yesterday, but good fucking God.
Yeah. Do you know what I am enjoying?
What's that?
The Bruins getting out-ratted by the Florida Panthers.
Here's-
the Panthers have gotten away with some like shady shit in this series, but I'm so pro it because it's at the expense of the Bruins that I'm like, yeah, get fucked.
I will say that I was expecting like them to get fucking trounced by the Panthers, and they're not getting trounced the way that I was expecting.
No, but at least they're down 3-1.
But also that fucking crybaby Marchand can definitely take it.
Totally. But I'm also just like, if it was any other team, I'd be like, that sucks that the calls are going this way. But when it's the Bruins, I'm like, yeah, you get what you fucking deserve.
That's right.
It's my Joker moment.
Oh, Vancouver won't take me.
Yeah.
Get fucked. Anyways, mirror.
Yeah, baby. Whoa, we're back. We're doing it. Yeah.
We're going to Threads.
Threads.
Every time. I don't know why it literally physically upsets me. First question comes from Cactuar David. I do not like that. It makes my skin crawl. Oh, oh God.
I've missed you.
No, you keep saying that.
Look at me when I say it.
I can't look at you in the eyes. In the TV show Arrow, there are two characters who you could consider dark reflections of Oliver Queen. Malcolm Merlyn and Prometheus. What are these characters like in the comics? In which media do they, in your opinion, work better as dark reflections?
Yeah, so Malcolm Merlyn, a.k.a. the Dark Archer. So in the comics, the Dark Archer's name was originally Arthur King.
Oh, my
His
God. Rather than
name got
Jesus
changed
Christ.
to be Malcolm Merlyn.
Sure.
His thing was that he was in the comics, he was already like a master archer when Green Arrow was coming up, like to the point where like Green Arrow like admired him or whatever. And then the thing was he would like periodically show up and like challenge Green Arrow to like a marksmanship duel. That was his thing. Like, who's got the better shot? And he beat Green Arrow the one time. And then Green Arrow beat him one time.
He's like the Mike Tyson to
yeah,
Logan Paul.
Yeah, Jake Paul. I think,
Whatever. I
right?
don't know. Yeah, sure.
I hate that you brought that up.
But here's the thing. I do like that Mike Tyson's like, I'm terrified of this fight because I might kill this kid.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I don't condone Tyson levels of violence.
But if you're going to have to do it,
But if it has to be against someone,
this is what I mean. There are worse people to do that to.
if the scenario is Tyson must hurt someone,
look, the beast must be fed.
Yeah. So the Dark Archer's whole thing with that. I mean, interestingly, Merlin, despite being like objectively, I would argue, a Green Arrow villain,
Yeah.
often runs up against Batman because Dark Archer keeps getting tied in with like the League of Assassins
Sure.
and shit like that. And he had a thing in the comics where like his goal was to assassinate Batman. That was like he was going to prove he was the best assassin by killing Batman. One time
Sure.
Green Arrow like shoots his arrow out of the air and like saves Batman's life. Like Merlin was going to do it,
Oh, wow.
and Green Arrow stops it.
So you're thinking that he could have done it? Like,
Yeah. I mean, in that particular
yeah. I was like,
scenario.
meh.
But like all you do, like, but it's, I mean, it's comics, right? If
Sure.
Green Arrow wasn't there, then Batman like would have heard it.
Sure,
Or, like,
yeah.
you know, like this is like some shit, right? Like there'd be
Sure.
some other thing, but no, like Merlin
Fair.
is a very accomplished marksman and assassin and things like that. And he's worked with different groups, the Injustice Gang and the Secret Society of Supervillains and all sorts of stuff. I mean, he is a literal reflection of Green Arrow in that he is even the name, the Dark Archer. He's a bad guy archer. It's like very like surface level,
Yeah.
that sort of thing. But the other thing is like Oliver Queen, you know, though a man of wealth, it sort of fights on behalf of the people, right? We talk about the lefty politics of Green Arrow all the time and stuff like that. Merlin, like, couldn't be more of like a sort of like, what do you call it? Like a not necessarily an aristocrat, but like an elite. You know what I mean?
So
Like,
do you think, like,
and
when
believing it? Like Oliver is also obviously an elite, but you know what I mean? Like they embody different mentalities or whatever. Merlin's whole thing is like, I am the best. I'm better. I'm like, you know, like it's the superiority thing that Green Arrow doesn't have.
Sure. Do you think that when a bad guy succeeds in doing a bad thing, that he goes, "You have succeeded this city,"
Yeah.
or do you think that he says, "You have failed this city, and I like it"?
Yeah, inside you there are two wolves. Yeah, if I had one note for the writers of Arrow, it's that Merlin should have said, "You have succeeded this city more."
Just saying.
That's the funniest shit. That is so fucking funny. In season 8, when Oliver was like parallel Earth hopping,
yeah,
he
yeah.
should have been on one Earth.
Yes.
Where Merlin was like, "You have
Succeeded
succeeded
this city.
That's so fucking funny. Fuck, that's good. So the other,
All right, I'll stick around.
the other character on there, Prometheus. So in
Yeah.
season 5 of Arrow, Prometheus comes in. It's a very different version of Prometheus than in the comics. Prometheus in the comics was initially intended to be a sort of like, wow, you're really like the anti-Richard right now. Eating
Well-
right into the fucking mic with your loud ass rapper.
Oh.
I thought you were doing it on purpose. Yeah. God, he's loud. Prometheus was supposed to be this sort of like anti-Batman, where like as a kid he sees his criminal parents gunned down by cops, and he makes a vow to take out all law enforcement.
Hell yeah.
And like becomes this, and instead of being like the best trained necessarily, he has this like computer in his helmet that calculates all the probabilities, sort of like gives him all the moves, sort of taskmastery, sort of like whatever. So he becomes this like very difficult adversary to beat because he's like calculated the outcomes. He can counter all your moves and stuff like that. Prometheus in the comics does have a Green Arrow connection in that he blew up Star City. He was responsible for what was at the time the death of Leon Harper and stuff like that. I think he ripped Roy's arm off. I think that was Prometheus. I might be wrong about that. But Green Arrow ends up killing him. In Cry for Justice, Green Arrow like finds Prometheus and just puts a fucking arrow in his skull.
Jesus.
As revenge for all of that. But Prometheus was sort of designed to kind of be more of like a Batman reflection. What's interesting about that is that in the Rebirth era of DC, I actually think he found an even better reflection, which was Midnighter. Because
Oh.
Midnighter is the Batman analog that has a fight computer in his brain. And so Midnighter and Prometheus going up against each other becomes like an even more kind of like, it's like you call two pizza places and you put them on speakerphone. It's like their fight computers go against each other, right? And like that kind of shit I think was interesting. I liked Prometheus as a Midnighter adversary. So he's had a couple of sort of evolutions of like what he's a reflection of, basically. In the show, I think it's got to be. You want to say it's Merlin because they both have sort of parallel training and skill kind of things. Prometheus is interesting though. Like he's an interesting pull for that show, but I think I got to go with Merlin as the better reflection of Arrow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You have succeeded this city. I'm never going to forget that. Never forget what they stole from us.
You have failed the city, and I like it.
I like it. He just says it more happily.
Yeah.
You have failed this city.
Hey, you failed this city. Nice.
And still shoots him.
Yeah. I still kill people.
Oh, yeah, I'm a bad guy.
Yeah. JVideo13 asks, is there a Bizarro World Reverse Flash? And would it just be called The Flash?
Well, so here's the thing. Reverse Flash doesn't have opposite powers of the Flash, right?
Sure.
He taps into the negative Speed Force, which is an artificial Speed Force, and his powers are slightly different, but they're both super speed, right? Like, they're both speedsters.
Yes.
Bizarro Flash is like big and fat and slow and heavy in that. That Reverse Flash should also be that. You know what I mean? Like he wouldn't be fast because they're like Reverse Flash and Flash aren't opposites in that way, right?
Yeah.
They're mirrors. So if anything, I think maybe like Bizarro Reverse Flash, instead of coming from the future, would come from the past.
Sure.
But he'd run into the Bizarro Flash's future to kill his mom, but the mom's already dead because he ran too far into the future.
I think it'd be like a Mr. Magoo situation where he's like a bumbling idiot, where it's not intentional. It's just like an accidental.
Yeah. Was it me, Barry?
Yes. What is it? That's fucking hilarious.
Yeah, I think that's Bizarro Reverse Flash. Was it me, Barry?
That's fucking perfect. God damn it, that's good.
I really like that.
Did I do that?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
All right. Well, with that, let's leave Threads and head on over to Instagram.
Now we're going to Instagram, take some questions and answer them.
First question comes from Keegan Steedman, who asks, what are your thoughts on Batman's Rogues Gallery all being reflections of a piece of Batman/Bruce Wayne? Is this a necessity in all Batman villains?
Yeah, I mean, you know, like, we're talking, like, when I put this theme out there, I was talking about these very, like, surface level, kind of like Superman and Bizarro, or Superman and Zod, and, like, Shazam and Black Adam, or whatever. But the idea of reflecting something of the hero, theoretically, is in every good antagonist in some way.
Sure.
I do think that Batman's rogues are maybe, like, the clearest example of that. It's not that he has the market cornered on his villains reflect back a piece of him.
Sure.
But they do, maybe it's because the lines are the cleanest or something like that. You know, like Penguin is like the warped sense of aristocracy and wealth and privilege, right? Mm-hmm. Riddler is his intellect. Two-Face is his sense of justice and right and wrong. Joker is chaos to his order. You know, like Mr. Freeze is a dark reflection of like Batman's commitment to the mission at all costs, like the emotionless kind of, like they all take a piece of him that way. And maybe it's just because they are these very like clean, like they each take a segment of them. Maybe that's why it feels like Batman's villains do it more than other people's. I don't know that that's necessarily true, but I think they maybe do it in more ways than other heroes get. They're like, there's a real like prism of reflections of Batman through his rogues gallery, Scarecrow, about fear and the mastery of fear and things like, like they all have something of him, which I do think it's a strength of that rogues gallery. I mean, obviously Batman is already a very compelling character. I do think that makes him even more compelling, though, that so many of his villains are direct challenges to a particular pillar of his existence or something like that. Do I think that it's necessary, again, to be a good antagonist of any character, you have to reflect something of them, I think, on some level. You're either reflecting something or you're fully rejecting something. You play the opposite, right? Like you go the full 180. We've talked about that before, too. Superman and Lex Luthor versus Superman and Zod.
Sure.
The different types of, like, are you reflecting or are you rejecting?
Sure.
As a villain or an antagonist. I think every antagonist does that, one of those to some degree. Sometimes they do both in different degrees. But I don't know if it... I think sometimes if you have a really good idea, you go in and that is your goal. I'm going to reflect this in Batman. And you go, great. That's awesome. Cool story idea. I think sometimes you can go, I have an idea for a story. This is the kind of villain that fits. And you might find organically what that villain is reflecting or rejecting because the story, because you're making a new villain to fit the story. So yeah, I think if we're writing things that are like tapping into something real and good storytelling and stuff like that, I think either on purpose or accidentally, you'll tap into this idea of reflecting something or rejecting something of the main character. I think that's just storytelling. You know what I mean? But do I think where I'm going with this though is the 10-eyed man, like, what's that reflecting in Batman? I go like, I don't know. The 10-eyed man's just like a character, like,
yeah.
Does every Batman villain do a great job of it? Like Clue Master, you go like, I don't know, right? Like some of them don't, and I think that's also fine. But it's just, and some of them I think maybe can occupy those things, and they don't. Like, you can make the argument that Clayface should occupy the, like, what is your real identity? What is the mask kind of side of Batman? Who are you really? Do you have a real identity, or do you live for the part? And I'm sure there's a couple of stories out there that touch on that, but is Clayface specifically the character used to reflect that in Batman? Or do we just do a Clayface story where he doesn't know who he is? When you think of Feet of Clay, the animated series one, that story's not about Batman also thinking about his identity. It's just about Matt Hagen and his journey.
Sure.
So, like, I think Clayface has the potential to reflect that side of Batman, but that's also not what he's doing most of the time when he shows up in comics. So it's not necessary. But I think what I'm saying here is because Clayface is a captivating villain, because I think on some level we know he can do that. It's in there. There's something that resonates about a guy that changes form and shape and wears these masks and stuff like that. And even if the stories never totally hit that, I think we know it on some level. That's part of what makes Clayface captivating.
Well, and that it's a thing that will subconsciously be bumped up against Batman's like own personal life or his own identities.
And again, like someone might like Jaffe or someone might point to a particular story, but like even just off the top of my head, I can't think of a story that is specifically like Clayface is doing a thing and Batman has to wrestle with who he is. right? Like in that real literal way, where we do that with a character like the Riddler about his intellect, or we do that with a character like the Penguin about aristocracy and wealth, or
Yeah.
we do that with a character like Scarecrow about fear. Sometimes we really hit the nail on the head with those ones. We don't really do that with Clayface, but you could, and I do think it's part of what makes him a good character.
It's a potential.
Yeah.
All right. Next question comes to us from Alfred Izzati, who asks, "What are the motivations of Mobius and the Anti-Monitor? Sorry, Mobius the Anti-Monitor.
Right.
And why does Darkseid hate him so much?"
I mean, the Anti-Monitor is slightly tough to track because he's had some significant retcons. So the Anti-Monitor was the main villain of the original Crisis on Infinite Earths. He was from the antimatter universe. He's the literal anti-Monitor. The Monitor was the sort of overseer of the positive matter multiverse. The Anti-Monitor was his counterpart in the antimatter universe, a being of destruction, basically. Even back in Crisis, they set up that Darkseid was like, this motherfucker. Like, they had a more specific rivalry. They play this even more in the New 52 when we did Forever Evil, where the crime syndicate from Earth 3 invades and takes over, and then eventually the Injustice League defeats them, and the Justice League comes back. But the whole thing there is we were reflecting some of the original Crisis on Infinite Earths.
Sure, yeah.
The first Earth we see destroyed in Crisis on Infinite Earths is Earth 3. And when Forever Evil happened, they were like, well, we fled our Earth because it got destroyed. And the last panel of Forever Evil number 7 is the Anti-Monitor on Earth 3. And you go, fuck. And then he shows up in Darkseid War, which is literally the Anti-Monitor and his shadow demons versus Darkseid and the Parademons, but fighting on Earth.
Mm-hmm.
In that one, he like kills Darkseid because the Anti-Monitor takes control of the Black Racer, the new god of death, and kills Darkseid with it. And this is the story where we reveal that his name is Mobius and that he's the originator of the Mobius chair, the thing that Metron sits on that has all of the knowledge of the cosmos and everything on it. The ultimate thus far and further retcon of the Anti-Monitor comes from Scott Snyder's Justice League run and like basically like metal into death metal, where we learn that it's not just the Over-Monitor and the Anti-Monitor. There is also the World Forger. The three are brothers, and they each occupy part of the cosmos from a very like macro perspective. The Over-Monitor is in charge of the positive matter multiverse, the worlds of the multiverse. The World Forger is in the dark multiverse, forging new stories, and if they're stable enough, they rise to the positive matter multiverse and join it. And if they're not stable, they break down, and he tries again, he makes a new story. And the Anti-Monitor and the antimatter universe are meant to be at the edge of reality, destroying stuff that doesn't work and basically like keeping to the fringes. But the Anti-Monitor's like purpose is a destroyer. Darkseid's purpose, like, he wants domination. So a character that is like a destructive force is no good to Darkseid. Like, Darkseid will lay waste to things or whatever, but he ultimately wants to conquer, subdue. He wants everything to be under his control. The Anti-Monitor is like a being that like kind of craves and hungers for destruction. Like, and it's not his fault. There's a sort of tragic side to the Anti-Monitor, which is like he's sort of made for it or forced to do it. But he doesn't want to, you know, like that shouldn't be what he does, but he's sort of forced into it, and he has this sort of kind of revenge side. But he's interesting as like as a reflection of the Monitor, right? Because the Monitor's thing is like total non-interference. I monitor, like it's in the name, right? He's there to watch, not to interfere, to see or whatever. The Monitor he gets involved through a proxy. Harbinger is the one that goes and recruits heroes during Crisis on Infinite Earths. The Monitor is just there, and then Harbinger recruits them, and he goes, "I am the Monitor, save the multiverse," and that's basically it. The Monitors in Final Crisis, which we've read, their whole it's death to a Monitor to interfere with the world.
Yeah.
It becomes the final crisis of the Monitors that they get infected with story, right? Nixuotan is a different kind of Monitor who's a little bit more involved, but it truly is the death of the idea of the Monitors, right? The Anti-Monitor, in true reflection fashion, is I'm not just going to interfere. I'm going to destroy, right? I'm going to rip the worlds apart. I'm going to wipe everything out. It's the opposite of monitoring, which is, I think it's a cool idea. I like it. I even like it as a name. We talked about it during Prescribed Reading Month with the Kirby story. There's something about a kind of clunky name that I love in a comic book.
Yes.
The Armageddon,
Yes.
I love a name like that. Or the Ultra Humanite.
Yes.
Even in Marvel, the High Evolutionary, or I love a clunky ass fucking name.
Eatgist.
Eatgist. Great example. Epuary.
I feel like we're just saying good names. But...
November.
Yeah. Mainth.
Yeah. Month. The month of May.
Yeah.
So to me, the Anti-Monitor's great as a reflection that way. His thing with Darkseid's actually probably the least interesting thing about him.
I think it just comes from Darkseid's wanting for order and his wanting of chaos. I think that's probably the purest.
Largely. Forever Evil tries to make it a little more personal than that, but to me, that's actually I actually find it not that compelling. I don't think I don't mind some of the the tragedy of the Anti-Monitor in the death metal context, where it's why would you make me only to destroy? Why is this my purpose? How come you get to be in the multiverse and you get to be making stories in the dark multiverse and I have to be stuck the fuck out here? That is enough for me. As petty kind of competition with Darkseid, I kind of go I don't think I need that out of this character. I just need him to be I must destroy,
Yeah.
Sometimes you just need a force of nature, and I kind of like him for that. But yeah, at any rate, there's the Anti-Monitor for you.
All right. Next question comes from Copy801, who asks, if you could have a mirror version of any DC character that currently doesn't have one, who would it be? What would be their power set? And how would it be different than their normal version of the character?
Oh, interesting. Depending on what we're talking about, it doesn't always even have to be that different. Flash and Reverse Flash, technically different sources of power, technically a couple of different abilities, but largely the same. Zod and Superman, the same powers. Zod and Superman and Bizarro, kind of wonky powers.
Yeah,
some the same, some different. Who is a character that you would want to see a mirror version of, and what kind of powers would they have? Would they be totally the same powers, just a reflection, a sort of parallel character, like Shazam, Black Adam, or
maybe Black Canary?
Interesting.
And make it so that they basically remove sound and reverberations and things like that.
Yeah.
And have it basically basically be more of an opposite.
Sure, right.
Which I think would be interesting, and you can really fuck with people with with lack of sound and things like that. You ever see that thing where the people go into those sound chambers?
Oh, it drives you nuts.
Yeah. So you could really fuck with people.
Yeah. Interesting. Because
I think it's funny because so many characters kind of already do have it, depending on how loosely you.
Lots of characters have a character with similar powers, a sort of Aquaman and Ocean Master,
Yeah,
Green Lantern and Sinestro, Flash and Reverse Flash, Superman and Bizarro,
Martian
Superman
Manhunter and like Decay Duraz.
Well, Martian Manhunter has Ma'alfa Ak.
Oh, sure.
That's
yeah,
his
yeah,
big one. But yeah, I mean Ma'alfa Ak or Charn or there's like lots of like white Martians.
Yeah,
or, like,
Green Martians. Fucking.
lots of that kind of thing. But yes, no, totally. A bunch of those are there. You know, like one that I more or less enjoyed is like Metamorpho and Octon,
Sure.
both as element folk.
Yeah, yeah.
Sure, that's kind of cool or whatever. I guess maybe interesting. I'm trying not to go like I do like villains that are the opposite, but then the mirror thing is slightly different. I'm thinking of the Atom. The Atom has an opposite archenemy, which is Kronos, the time thief. So where the Atom manipulates size, space, Kronos goes through time. There's their opposite things. So theoretically, a mirror thing of the Atom would just be someone else who goes small or whatever, right? And maybe uses it differently. Or they have I think what I'd want is maybe they have the same power, but like a different source of the power. So instead of like the white dwarf star material and the bio belt that the Atom has, they have some other means of shrinking. And maybe that does something to them.
Sure, yeah.
So they both have like the same power, but it affects them differently or something like that. I think something like that's kind of interesting. I think a character that doesn't have a good mirror.
Dr. Fate?
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm trying not to count like parallel Earth versions.
Sure.
Because there's Dr. Chaos on Earth 3.
Yeah.
I mean, in current comics, there's Dr. Hate.
Sure.
Wearing the helmet of hate, but that's just revealed to be the demon half of Raven,
Oh, okay.
which has been separated from Raven and now has trapped like Rachel, like Raven, in the gem in her head, and she's posing as Raven out in the real world, but it's really like she's like the Trigon part of Raven.
Sure, yeah.
But she was Dr. Hate and working with and so had more kind of chaos magic powers. But that's slightly opposite to Dr. Fate, slightly mirrored.
Yeah.
That's a tricky one, but interesting.
The ironic thing is
I mean,
that,
the Hawks have lots because there's like always other Thanagarians or some shit.
Oh,
like that. You know, like there's
sure.
lots of other characters with wings, and, you know, like nth metal and stuff like that. I mean, Onimar Sin is maybe an interesting one of Hawkman's because Onimar Sin's thing is that he's like perfectly psychically bonded to nth metal. He can make nth metal do anything, whereas Hawkman sort of just like wears it and uses it and is maybe a little clunkier about it. So he's sort of a mirror in that they both have the same material and the same kind of history with it, but one is just better at it than the other, right? Which is kind of almost like a Zod Superman thing in a way, where one is better trained, more, you know, disciplined or whatever.
Adam Strange.
Oh, interesting. I mean, it'd be cool if there was like
Someone who like knew
surely
how,
there must be this must be in a comic somewhere, but like a Ranian that swaps places with him when he goes to Ran
sure,
and
yeah.
ends up on Earth.
Or like somebody who like knows how to use the Zeta beam, or like
Yeah.
someone who uses it for like piracy,
Yeah.
who like comes and fucking just like wrecks shit.
yeah.
And it's because but I like the idea of the switching, because then it's like you
Yeah.
can't, like, how do you defeat somebody who's like always in the opposite place you
You
are?
can never be there when
yeah,
they're
yeah.
there.
So you have to like set things up.
Yeah.
That's
that's
fun.
kind of fun. I like that.
Yeah.
Like if you had a total binary
Yeah.
relationship with the mirror.
That's fun.
Yeah,
I like
that's
that.
cool.
That's a
I
good
like
idea.
that. That's a good one. Yeah.
All right, let's go to the next one. From Dem Jenkies, who asks, Okay.
Ruh-roh.
Not my rhyme.
Yeah, go listen to Ghostfaces this week.
Everything's a crossover. What do Mirror Reed and Richard look like? What are their personalities? So we'll have to do each other.
Okay, but keep in mind, it's not.
My feelings get hurt easily.
Well, no, so what I was going to say is, it's not opposite.
Yeah, sure.
It's like
It's like a really handsome guy
like-
who's got all of his hair.
it's like dark reflection. It's like it's twisted. It's not it's not complete opposite.
sure.
you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Interesting. Well, I think that means
We're just each other.
no. I think Mirror Richard is like fully amoral ambition, right? All the same drive and like all the same meticulousness and all that kind of stuff, and like zero emotional compunction, like a true like CEO sociopath kind of figure.
You're Max Lords.
Yeah, like that would be like Mirror Richard, right? It's all the same things. It's just like a twisted, like if you had made 3 choices different, you'd be there, right? Which is like sort of like the Batman Penguin thing or whatever, right? Like Bruce Wayne could be like Cobblepot, but for a couple of instances that, you know, a good upbringing and blah, 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 blah. They're not like totally impossible opposites, right?
I think the version of you is just a guy who uses all his ability to learn everything about things, and instead of making it about like nerd shit, makes it about like things that like aren't fun and harmless, but are more of like you
Like I know how to make a pipe bomb.
yeah, well, like yeah, like you become like a fucking like civil terrorist. Or
Sorry, so I'm the Unabomber.
yeah,
Right. Cool.
yeah.
Good.
I mean, yeah, you could go manifesto territory.
Yeah. So instead of spending my time reading about kryptonite, I learned about Pizzagate.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean. Like you,
I'm sorry. So I go, instead of channeling obsessive knowledge
Yeah.
tendencies to
you
fiction,
go conspiracy.
I go full conspiracy
yeah,
theorist.
yeah. Like I did my own research, which is still a thing that you do now,
Huh.
but you do it for things that are harmless.
And I really do it.
yeah,
In that I'm actually checking sources in that. Right. This is a read with unverified sources.
well, no, but it's a read that's gotten so deep down the rabbit hole, and it's a one small change. But as soon as you don't believe the validity of the sources,
Right.
suddenly it's like, well, if none of it is believable, then I'll just do the stuff that, like,
Wow. Dark.
yeah,
I mean, I guess it's encouraging that both of us
Yeah.
feel like we're the good reflection,
yeah,
right? Like
sure,
both of us made the reflection of each other the bad one.
that's good.
That's good.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think,
that's good.
right? Like that's right.
Yeah. The reflection of you is just a really chill guy.
If we both came out and said like, I think like the you would be like this like cool blah 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 blah. And
Yeah.
be like, oh no, this is the dark timeline. Like, oh shit, fuck.
You're a chill guy who doesn't get worked up and kind of doesn't really.
I said not opposite.
yeah.
Fucking listen.
Glad you're not proving my point.
I'm good.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Have I just been keeping the boat floating for a couple of weeks?
Yeah. I'm sure you don't have thoughts.
Do I feel fucking great about that?
You could have just stopped.
First of all,
Mm-hmm.
we couldn't. We're under contract.
I mean, not for
Sec-
Dr. DC.
We still got ads.
They're done now, aren't they?
No, end of the month.
Oh,
Pretty sure. Double check the thing, but I'm pretty sure it's the end of the month.
okay.
Secondly,
Mhm.
I like doing this.
Oh.
Mirror Me is doing this out of spite. Mirror Me is doing this with your energy.
I was going to say, I'm like, mirror you as me?
Yeah, yeah. It's like, ugh, this thing.
Yeah. Take all the drive and make something of it. Yeah.
Yeah. And you're like, I don't care what the subject matter is, but we're just doing things.
Yeah.
And I'm like, fine, but like, I like comic books in real life. Now I got to talk about it over here. That's Mirror Me.
I mean, barely. I mean, the reality is that like that does feel like a thing you would say. It's like I have to do another thing with this thing. I just can't. It just
But the
be
mirror
the thing.
thing is that I'm doing it with comic books. Right
yes.
now, I like this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But this is just the.
You're right though that it is a thing I've said where it's like I do this all fucking day. I got to do this now.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
That
Like
is true. I do say stuff like that a lot.
like, this is the one universe where you did a podcast about comic books.
Yeah, in all the other universes.
You were like, that's the place where I enjoy things. I don't want to make it a job.
in all the other universes, apparently they're reading my manifesto on the news.
You know what it is? All the other universes, it's just you and Colin that do this, and you hate it.
Oh shit. Interesting.
I never show up, and you just do a badly produced version of this thing with just you and Colin.
Oh man.
Where it's you just talking about the things you know.
Wow. So what do you think? Oh no.
I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
This is dumb.
Huh.
This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. This time of the year can be tough. It's cold and dark outside, and you feel like you're all peopled out. How do you set boundaries and give yourself the alone time you need? Most people don't have an endless social battery. Therapy can help you listen to your body and give yourself the time to recharge. In the past few years, I have made choices that have improved every part of my life, and I honestly wouldn't have been able to do any of it without therapy. Through therapy, I have gained confidence and learned to draw important boundaries. If you want to make things better or just a bit easier, or you want somebody to talk to, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, so it's easier to fit into any schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist. And you can even switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. Find your social sweet spot with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/DrDC today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/DRDC. Anyways, next question.
So we're good?
I mean,
No, like we're good?
yeah,
Look at me. Are we good?
sure.
Was it me, Barry?
Yeah. Yeah, no, we're good.
Yeah.
You want me back?
Hell yeah, fuck yeah.
Robbie's just this guy asks, Zod has an arc that lands in a pretty good place during the 30 to 31st century. Whatever happened with his peaceful Kryptonian / Daxamite repopulation project?
So Zod is in the middle of that right now, basically. So the House of Zod and the House of El join up to basically help found the United Planets. This was like a big thing from the Bendis era of Superman, was the founding of the United Planets in the now. We know the United Planets exists 1,000 years from now with the Legion, but they actually founded it. And the ramifications that are still out there. The United Planets runs the Green Lantern Corps right now. They've blockaded Sector 2814. They have their own, like, in addition to the Green Lantern Corps, they had their own sort of like force that had like a Tamaranian and Thanagarian and like all these different kind of characters on it or whatever. Zod has a series right now called Kneel Before Zod. And in that one, like, basically what had happened in that is eventually Superman and Zod sort of not bury the hatchet, but they kind of go like, I think our thing is done. And Zod takes the bottle city of Kandor, and they go and they like populate this planet under Yellow Sun. And it's him and Ursa and their son, and they start kind of like, she starts leading this like genetic engineering project to try to make Kryptonians. The idea is eventually if they do that, maybe they'll find out how to undo the bottle city of Kandor. They'll make a new Krypton.
Sure.
And right now in that series, that planet got attacked by Kunz, which are like a classic, like we need a random antagonist alien for Justice League comics. It's always the Kunds. Kund, I said.
Okay, you pronounce that D a little harder.
They're being really kundy about
Yeah.
it. Let me just say.
They're serving Kund.
I will say that Justice League comics in Britain use the Kunds a lot more.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's like less of a thing there.
It's way less of a thing.
Yeah,
They don't
yeah.
even think about it.
Yeah.
Over here, we're like, oh my God, there's Kunds in this issue.
Yeah. Are you allowed to say that?
Yeah. Are they- So in that series, it's about like Zod on this other planet trying to start this new Kryptonian species or whatever, and also sort of subjugating the indigenous people of the planet, sort of showing up and being gods to them. And
Sure.
That's sort of, it's different than what Superman would do on a planet.
Sure, yeah.
That is sort of in progress right now, and going poorly, I should say. It's all kind of coming apart. Because I think ultimately Zod's just like, what's interesting is that there's 1,000 years to get to a place where maybe there is a better new Krypton, new Daxam kind of thing, you know? But right now, it's like we took this guy who's essentially a war criminal. He's kind of like, I guess I did some war crimes, but he's not totally like apologizing. He goes like, I guess I did. And then they go, okay, well, here's a planet full of other people that can't fight against you.
Yeah.
Do the right thing this time. And he goes, okay,
I'll try.
nobody look over here. Like,
Yeah.
I think it's interesting. I'm not 100% sure that I'm sold on it. The bit that I liked about it was his relationship to Superman changing. That instead of it just being like, we'll fight forever, that they had sort of turned a bit of a corner. And maybe neither of them were even that happy about it, but they were like, it's better for us to be the last Kryptonians united on at least a couple of causes than to be fighting forever to wipe us out completely. That I found interesting. I'm not 100% sure I'm sold on the what Zod's doing now
Sure.
thing, but it is interesting. Like, I think that we had sort of run our course with Zod trying to take over Earth, or Zod just trying to fight Superman, or whatever. So it was time to do a slightly different version of it. But I'm not 100% sure that this thing is paying off. But that doesn't mean the idea is bad. I think it just means we haven't landed on the next interesting bit of it yet.
Sure.
Yeah.
Next question comes from Mr. E64, who asks, how about the Earth 3 crime syndicate? They're a fun group of villains, and I can't help but want the individual members to get their own stories, like Owlman kinda did in Court of Owls. If you had to pick a member of the crime syndicate to show up and get a story, who would you pick?
Okay, so a couple of things here.
Yeah.
Thing number one that I should say is Earth 3 as an Earth is like a literal mirror to the point that the continents are backwards. Like, think of a map. Think of how it looks. Now, put it in a mirror. That's what Earth 3 looks like.
Sure.
Los Angeles is on the East Coast. Right? Like,
yeah.
all this kind of stuff. But Earth 3 is like, I mean, we call this a mirror. It might be more of an opposite game. Sometimes we get confused about these ideas.
Sure, yeah.
But like, they say things in Earth 3 history like President Benedict Arnold as opposed to George Washington.
Sure.
You know, like,
Yeah.
they do that kind of like Britain got independence from America. Like, they do that kind of shit in Earth 3 history.
Yeah.
And on Earth 3, that is a world where it's not just it's where the entire arc of history is mirrored, so that strength and evil and that is quote right. If we talk about the moral arc of history, the moral arc of history on Earth 3 is towards evil and bad. So instead of it being a world where the villains won, and the villains are Lex and Joker and stuff like that, it's a world where, for its moral arc of history, they also have a Justice League. But because their world bends towards evil and bad, their Justice League is evil and bad. It's protecting the thing that is right in that universe.
Sure.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it's not a world where good loses. It's a world where good is not the point.
Yeah.
Where good is not progress. On that world, evil is progress.
Sure.
Which is an interesting idea to think about because it's a nuanced version of the bad versus evil kind of idea.
Yeah. Okay.
So instead of the Justice League, they're the Crime Syndicate. Ultraman, Owlman, Superwoman, Power Ring, Johnny Quick, Sea King, The Martian. All of these characters exist there. Sky Tyrant instead of Hawkman. All these characters are on Earth 3. So that's thing number one. The entirety of Earth 3 is a reflection, which is sort of cool. On the note about Owlman, the Owlman in Court of Owls is not the Earth 3 Owlman.
Oh, okay.
So Owlman on Earth 3 is Thomas Wayne Jr., the older brother of Bruce Wayne.
Oh, okay.
And in that world, he has his parents killed and Bruce killed. And he becomes Owlman. On the Prime Earth in Court of Owls, there is an Owlman. That character's name is Lincoln March, and he claims to be Thomas Wayne Jr. But it is never said whether he actually is.
What do you think?
I don't know.
Yeah.
It might be neat in the way where it's like there's just these weird echoes of things across the multiverse, but I also think it's better if he's not, and he's just like convinced himself he is, or like in that classic I love a crazy Batman villain sort of thing.
Yeah.
But that Owlman is not the Earth 3 Owlman. So that Court of Owls thing that you're talking about is not the same character.
Okay.
We did get little snippets of like origin stories of the Crime Syndicate in Justice League issues that tied in during Forever Evil.
Okay.
So that was that's in the New 52 era. We got to see like the version of Ultraman's origin. So he's Kal-El instead of Kal-El.
Yes.
He's Kal-El.
Oh.
Hell yeah. We get to see that. We see the origin of Grid, even though Grid's not from Earth 3, but the same sort of idea.
Isn't Krypton still around in Ultraman?
No. In that one, it still blows up, but I'm gonna fuck this up. But it's like Jor-El doesn't save him for like to be good. He goes like, you're not like. He says like you don't like deserve to die with us, or like it's like some shit like that. It's like go to Earth, take it over, prove to me you're not worthless, or some shit like that.
Oh, sure.
Like, it's like that kind of thing, and he sends him off. Yeah, it's and the way that they do it in the New 52. In some versions of Earth 3, it's like full opposite, where there are still good guys, but it's Lex and the Jokester and stuff like that, and they're like fully good guys. The New 52 version of Earth 3 I actually like better, which is that even the good guys are like bad versions of good people, because in a universe that just is about evil, what does good even mean?
Sure, yeah.
Like, it can't be fully altruistic. It has to just, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
So that's where you got Mazas, who's the Earth 3 version of Shazam and stuff like that. Some neat ideas,
Yeah.
I would say, on Earth 3. I liked that better than when we got a Crime Syndicate actual book, 6-issue series. I didn't, and that's in the sort of dawn of DC era or whatever. I didn't like that as much as I liked the New 52 Earth 3. I was like pretty sold on that version of those characters and that idea of that universe. So the next time we go back to Earth 3 or we revisit those characters, I'd like to see it more like that and less like the more kind of Silver Agey Crime Syndicate where they just flipped.
Sure, yeah.
Whereas like the Crime Syndicate's bad and the Secret Society's good. I kind of just liked like a bad universe.
Sure.
I think it's a more interesting narrative idea. Yeah.
But is there like a specific,
Oh,
like
specific.
a member of them
That-
that you want a story for?
Boy. No, maybe not a specific one, but I would just want to see more. We always come back to the main Justice Leaguers, really, with very few kind of exceptions. It would be interesting to see more of the other characters. What is Earth-3 Black Lightning?
Yeah.
What is you know like, and what does it mean? Like, if Jefferson Pierce is an educator and a good role model on our world, then on Earth-3 to be a effective role model on a bad world, what does that look like?
Corporal punishment. Yeah.
But you know what I mean?
Yeah,
I say
yeah.
like about negative reinforce. Like, what I want to see is like, let's take this idea and then explore it in these different kind of
You know how you could do
avenues,
it,
right?
You know how you could do it is, through like a civil uprising.
Oh,
Like through like some form of either like localized terrorism or like rebellion, where
Yeah.
basically it's like technically like they're fighting for good,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
they're also going against the government, which is bad.
Yeah, well, and there's so many ways to do that too.
Yeah,
Because like,
yeah.
as an educator on a reverse Earth, does that mean he's either like a propagandist,
Yeah.
or does it mean he's the conspiracy theorist?
Yeah,
Trust nothing.
yeah,
There is no
yeah,
such
yeah,
thing as
yeah,
like
yeah,
do your own
yeah.
research. Like, which
Yeah.
you could maybe do either or
That's
both
fun.
or something.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
But that's what I'd want to see.
You
So
could
I-
also do a lot of effective fun like narrative stuff that like is reflective of like our own
yeah.
world and stuff.
I think if there was ever going to be like another crime syndicate series, I'd want them all to be basically one shots. Treat it like Secret Origins, like the book that was always just about
for
get
sure.
to know these characters, but just
Yeah.
do it on Earth-3, and
I
then
mean-
just have these little one-shot stories that could kind of pursue these little tendrils, and you don't have to go and make a 6-issue arc out of it. You don't have to like. You can just do.
You,
I
you
wanna
know
pur-
this.
I want to pursue an idea, and you do that, and
You know the show loves an anthology series.
100%, baby.
As long as you get a colon in that title, we're good.
Oh yeah, you know this show loves a colon.
Yeah, a full one.
Yeah.
All right, next question.
No, I'm good.
Okay. From Jeff Attack, who asks, taking the idea more abstract and less literally. Yeah, that's what abstract means.
Wow. Coming in fucking hot.
Who is your favorite Jungian?
Jungian,
Oh, sure.
Carl Jung.
I've never seen it written. I know the term, but I've never actually seen Jung written. Shadow self type character.
The thing is, okay, if I'm going to like try to go back to classes I slept through in university,
Yeah.
who takes an 8:30 psychology class? Ugh.
There's a lot to unwrap there.
Because I was picking classes in first year, and it's like 8:30 is later than high school starts. I'll be fine, and I wasn't like accounting for
Drinking all night and blacking out and waking up at the fucking city's edge. You weren't prepared for that part of it?
waking up like half in a pond.
Fucking $2 fucking pitchers on
Oh,
Wednesdays.
man.
Yeah.
Couple of fucking Phil's nights.
Yeah.
Woof. Where was I going with this? Oh, right. Psychology. Carl Jung. From what I remember, and forgive me for butchering this, the shadow self thing in Jung is that it's more about like the instinctual layers of who you are. Things that maybe you deny via your intellectual layers. Right? Like, now that doesn't a lot of people take that to mean the bad things, you right? Like an instinct for violence or an instinct for whatever. But it's also supposed to be like the true well of creativity or spontaneity or initiative or things like that. Things that your intellect might get in the way of or might alter or might deny. So your shadow self is supposed to be a sort of holistic, true, like underlying piece of who you are, basically, that you either are unaware of or are actively denying.
Well, this is I think in the documentary Stutz, they talk a little bit about like his interpretation of shadow self, which is sort of like it's more a version of like the like pure version of yourself that like it's either the version that you like hate of yourself, or it's the sort of like infantile version of you that you sort of deny, right? Which is like the thing that that you can either look at as like the version of yourself you're protecting, or the version of yourself that you don't like.
Yeah, which again I think comes down to like it's the stuff it's the version of you that hasn't been like socialized out, or that you aren't like intellectually denying or whatever. Yeah. So I mean, a shadow self mirror character in DC. Fuck.
Is there a version?
I mean, probably. Interesting. I'll throw one out there that may be slightly controversial. Nightwing to Batman.
Oh, sure. Yeah,
I think Batman, and we have lots of stories that
adds
do this.
Up to me.
Batman actively denies for himself moving on.
Yeah.
He denies himself the things that would maybe round his life out a bit more. Now, yes, he's got kids and family, and he does sort of embrace that role. But he keeps denying romance. He keeps denying hanging up the cowl. He keeps denying, every time he moves past a thing or he's like come to terms with it, he still keeps pushing forward as Batman anyway. And his Batman seldom changes. So even when he goes like, and I'm over my parents' death now, but I still have the vow. It's like, so then what good is it to be over their death if it hasn't changed anything?
Yeah.
If it hasn't even changed your approach to Batman or whatever. I'd make the argument that Nightwing is a sort of shadow self reflection of Batman. Dick is, and this is the success of Batman, Dick has the same kind of childhood tragedy and then goes through all this training, takes the vow, but he has a full life. Friends he lets in, not just friends that are there that he keeps at a distance like Batman does. Like, yeah, Nightwing kind of is, in that sort of positive, holistic sense, a shadow self Batman, I would say.
Sure, yeah.
That's the one that springs to mind the fastest or the most easily to me. That's one I'd throw out there.
It's hard to not make it their villain, you know what I mean? Because like I think often like the best villains are also the shadow versions of the characters. Like
totally, and those gremlin-y bits, that's part of it too. It could absolutely be a villain.
Because it's like it's the version of yourself that you don't want to be, right. Which could either be the version of you like succumbing to darkness, but also I think that's why I always like the Stutz version of it more, which is more about like the thing about yourself you don't like,
right?
Which is more of like it's almost exactly the same, but it's a slight rewording of it, because often it's still a version of you that like that you don't like, and it's about like diving into understanding why you don't like that version of it, and then it gives you the opportunity to then like praise that version of you and treat it more of like a child than a thing that you have to like hate and discard.
Yeah, I agree.
But yeah, it's a fucking good one.
Nice question.
Yeah,
solid.
Wrong podcast. Next question from
Psychology 101. That was only almost 2 decades ago.
Weird you started burping through it. Yeah. I had to get in the moment. From Delgado Andrew. I'm fine.
It's good.
It's great even. Who's the best candidate for Wonder Woman's opposite number?
As a reflection, I mean, listen, I'm going to be controversial here and go with a relatively new character. I'm going to say Grail. So Grail is a daughter of Darkseid and an Amazon. an Amazon named Marina.
Okay.
So Grail has like the gray skin. She has some of the Omega effect in that, but she's also an Amazon. An interesting sort of reflection that way, especially if you take the New 52 context of Wonder Woman being a sort of demigod. Then Grail is a sort of interesting kind of demigod because she's like a new demigod. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like Darkseid being a new god, being the god of evil kind of thing, versus Wonder Woman having some descendancy from the old gods, right? Even if you go with the clay thing, if you say Zeus gave the clay life or whatever, she has like old god magic, and then Grail also has like new god kind of mixed in there as well. I think that's an interesting reflection. I don't know that Grail has necessarily been used to her full potential, but I do think she's interesting. And that might be the one I put out there as a good Wonder Woman mirror character, I think.
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
Yeah. Because to me, Cheetah's like a real like opposite character. And Giganta, like we start getting further from it.
Egg Foo, though.
Yeah. An absolute mirror.
Completely.
A mirror up to nature.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
All right.
Yikes.
Let's leave Instagram and head on over to Reddit.
Where everyone's nice and no one's ever mean.
First question comes from Cassandra Kane Batgirl, who asks, who is Batman's mirror? Is it Owlman, Batman Who Laughs, Zur, Alfred, or even Dick? Thanks.
Yeah, I mean, arguments for a lot of these. Owlman definitely sees himself as Batman's perfect reflection. That comes up during Death Metal. It might be, I can't remember what the one shot is, but he has this whole monologue to Jon Stewart where he's like, don't you see? Every time the multiverse dies, Earth 3 comes back and I come back. And you know why? It's because your Earth comes back and Batman has to exist. I'm immortal. I'm invincible. I'm as true. Like, Owlman has this crazy, like, I can't be undone because I'm the perfect reflection of Batman.
Oh, wow.
Like, he has this whole, like, meta realization of, like, his role in the story kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So Owlman sees himself that way, for sure. I think he's a solid case for it in general because, to be honest, Batman's... the characters that are supposed to be, like, full reflections of Batman, not just partial ones. Like, not just the Penguin reflecting a bit of him or the Riddler reflecting a bit of him. The characters that are supposed to like fully reflect him, like Wrath or like
Sure, yeah.
even Prometheus or whatever, you kind of go like,
Not really.
they don't really work that well.
Yeah.
Owlman works great, you know, as that function. And I know it's sort of cheating to be like, well, he's from a totally mirrored Earth. He's not just a character that is a reflection. But like Owlman sort of works. For the Batman Who Laughs, I know that's a character that's been like way too oversaturated or whatever. But the Batman Who Laughs is a better reflection character of Batman than the Joker is. Joker is an opposite, a rejection character. The Batman Who Laughs is that kind of like, is closer to, because it's that hybrid mix of Joker and Batman, where it's like, what if all of Batman just didn't have that guiding moral principle or just didn't care? You know, it's the nihilism of the Joker that makes the Batman Who Laughs so scary.
Yeah.
Right? Like, and that's interesting. It definitely pushes the character closer to reflection, which I think is also why the Joker hates him. Because the Joker's like, you and me, we're equal and opposite counterparts. And he goes, that thing is a fucking abomination. You know, like,
yeah.
At the end of Metal, the first Metal event, Batman and the Joker team up to fight the Batman Who Laughs. And Batman's like, tell no one about this. And the Joker's like, fine.
Sure.
And they team up to fight him because they're both like, this thing cannot stand.
Yes.
I
do like that.
Which is, I think it works. I think it's good. But it's also an argument for Batman Who Laughs being a sort of reflection to both of them.
Yeah. But I think for me, the heart of it is Owlman.
Owlman, I think, is the best one because truly anything else doesn't feel like it gets that close. Even Earth 1 Owlman doesn't do it a good job. The talons, like
Yeah. I don't think it's the purest like reflection.
it does feel a bit like cheating to be like, well, go to the reflection Earth to find the good
I mean,
reflection.
fair, but it does exist.
But weirdly for Batman, it's kind of the only one that exists. A lot of the other characters have a Prime Earth one that works. Batman doesn't,
Oh, interesting.
which I don't know if that's like a weakness of Batman or it's because his rogues gallery is so good at deconstructing pieces of him that trying to put it all together feels like a hat on a hat.
Yeah.
Like it's almost like because he's done such a good job, like as a corner of the mythos that way, he actually doesn't need a full one. Whereas like Aquaman, it's like, what does the fisherman represent? It's like, I don't know. That's a sort of unrealized
Sure, yeah.
kind of thing. It was like, we got Ocean Master. And then Black Manta's his opposite, like the opposite one, right? And then the Flash has, as I keep saying, Captain Cold as a sort of opposite.
Yeah.
He's got Reverse Flash as a mirror. Superman's got Lex and Zod. Or, like you kind of go through, you go down the line, you got all these,
Totally.
right?
All right, next question comes from Arpit the Hero,
I mean, how dare you?
who asks, do you think Bizarro Hal Jordan should be a Green Lantern or a Yellow Lantern, since both have been depicted in the past?
I prefer him as a Yellow Lantern.
It's the opposite, right? Like,
Which is interesting because the Earth 3 one is I think by Bizarro rules,
which we're making up as we
which
go.
are totally made up,
Yeah.
the Green Lantern would still seeks out will.
Sure.
And so Bizarro Green Lantern doesn't have a lot of will. He's afraid. So he gets a Yellow Lantern.
Sure, yeah.
On Earth 3, it's the Ring that is willful.
Okay.
And it seeks out someone without will so it can dominate them.
Yeah.
So that's the thing with Power Ring on Earth 3.
Okay.
Harold Jordan there is weak-willed, and the Ring can fucking own him. And that's the thing on Earth 3. Is the Ring of Volthoom is like, I'm in charge now. And he's like, okay.
Oh.
He's not like, so he is like technically a bit afraid.
Yeah.
But it's not that it's a fear ring. It's that who has the will in the relationship is reversed. That's the sort of interesting thing on Earth 3 that I kind of like. And like his name is a reflection too. You go like, what are the two items that Green Lantern has? He has a lantern, he has a power ring. He's not called Green Lantern there, he's called Power Ring.
Oh, sure.
That's the reflection piece there too. So to me though, to circle back to this, Bizarro Green Lantern I think should be like a full Bizarro. He's afraid, and so he gets a Yellow Lantern ring, but then he's also like, me know what to do with this. Kind of like, he's both like clumsy and afraid. It's I like him as a Yellow Lantern. I think that makes sense for a Bizarro.
I would agree with that.
Yeah. That's my take.
All right. Well, with that, we're leaving Reddit and heading over to the Doc Squad.
Fuck.
What did you do when I wasn't around?
This mostly.
You would say it to yourself and then say fuck? Yeah, you're that boy.
Listen, nothing if not consistent.
Yeah, that's all you can ask for.
Sometimes I'm not even that.
Oh, no. Consistently a letdown.
Hang on. Docs is for the way you scored at me. Scored is for the only docs I see. Ducks is scoreding very scored and ducksonary. Ducks who could even scored than anyone that you doc scored.
Are you saying you love me? I love it. That's the first song that came to mind. I think we need to bring out Carl Jung again.
Someday when I'm awfully low,
First question
when
comes
the
from
world is cold, I will feel a glow just thinking of you and the scored you docs tonight.
I'm Docs. I'm so ducks. I'm blue.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
You're trying to do the Batman one?
Yeah.
Am I blue?
Am I ducks?
Am I blue?
Am I scored?
Ain't this scored in my ducks?
Scored
Scored
in
in you.
First question comes from Big McLarge Huge,
Nice.
who asks, "What do you think of Night NITE Wing as a foil / mirror to Nightwing? Do you think his radicalized fascist type character would be more relevant today? What other vigilantes would look cool in a hockey jersey so it's not just him and Wild Dog?"
Yeah, so that Nightwing, that's from, I think that's a Chuck Dixon creation. That's like mid 2000s kind of Nightwing.
Sure, yeah.
And this guy like kind of totally independently calls himself Nightwing, but yeah, spells it like NITE wing. And he basically like he's more or less he's like an incel in the alt-right pipeline. Like if this character came out today, we'd be like, it's a bit on the nose.
Yeah.
I mean, even in the mid 2000s, I guess it was probably a bit on the nose, but he's a guy that essentially is like, he's like a psychopath, like a fascist psychopath who's like, he's like, I'm going to go fight crime. And like, what does he do? He just like goes after black people because he's like, I saw in the news that black people cause crime. Like he does
I was going up and down the streets looking for
he Neeson's it.
Yeah.
If I'm being
Yeah,
honest. Yeah, Nightwing's publicist off the oh Jesus. That Nightwing, what's his fucking name? He's got like such a fucking incel name too. It's like Chad or Tad.
Jesus.
Or something like that. It was sort of an interesting idea.
It is Tad.
Of someone that
It's
was like
Tad Ryerstad.
yes, thank you.
What
yes.
a fucking dumb name.
I mean, that's a fucking OCS name.
Tad Ryerstad.
Tad Ryerstad. Ooh, what you say? Ooh, that you only met Tad.
But of course you
Ryerstad.
stay.
I do think it's a neat idea of someone who like is so wrong in their heart
Yeah.
and soul, wrong in their literacy, wrong in their reading of the world, who is like, what would happen if that person decided they were going to, quote, work outside the rules to make things the way they should be?
Yeah.
Like, it is a reflection of the idea of vigilantism, which is like, we only love the superheroes because they're right. But
Sure.
like, we really shouldn't just let people do this. What if they're not right?
Yes.
So like, that's the interesting part of that Nightwing is like, we shouldn't be applauding any of these people. But when they're right, you go, well, then I guess it all worked out.
Yeah.
But that's almost circumstantial.
I mean,
It's
that was
not really like a function of vigilantism produces people to do the right thing. That's not true. So it's like you kind of realize it's like we can't really like endorse the system. We can only endorse like individual actions as they happen to be right. But you kind of can never sort of carte blanche be like, and I love a superhero, because it's like anyone can just say, I'm going to go be a superhero and then do that shit. And you go like,
well, I mean, like, I've literally like had an employee like call me and say they did something that they should not have done, but it resulted in a very good thing happening. And I was like, hey, congratulations. Because it ended well.
Yeah.
I was like, if it didn't, we'd be having a very different conversation.
Totally. I mean, and so Nightwing is as a character, this Nightwing is interesting to like have that conversation. The reflection of like, what if just the wrong person decided to put on a mask?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
go, like,
I mean, it's kick ass a little bit.
but not totally. But it's,
Yeah,
like, it's
yeah.
not even to the point of like being a crook. But it's just like the wrong type of person
Yeah.
trying to do the wrong kind of quote right.
Yeah.
Is almost worse in a way,
Yeah.
you know, than just someone robbing a bank, you know? So that's interesting to me. If that character existed now, I do think we'd be like, it's a little on the nose.
True.
But that's because we live in a world full of Tad Ryerstads, which is awful.
Yeah.
As for characters wearing hockey jerseys, I'm not sure if Tad wore a hockey. I thought he had a more of like a leather jacket kind of vibe. Wild Dog is a character who wears a hockey jersey. Who else would rock a hockey jersey?
Guy Gardner.
Yeah. Actually.
Yeah.
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 Much as I'm loath to admit it, he would.
Yeah. And ironically, Wildcat.
Yeah. Yeah. See, now Guy Gardner's from Baltimore, but I don't think he'd be a Capitals guy. I think he's like a Philly Flyers.
Sure.
I think Guy Gardner likes the Flyers.
Sure, that makes sense.
That
adds up.
That's my take. That's my hot take on Guy Gardner.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. Come at me.
Yeah. He wears a Lindros jersey.
Next question.
Yeah, go for it.
From Lilith, who asks,
No, sorry, it's a Hextall jersey. He's like, I love a goalie that just fucking slashes people all the time. That's a Guy Gardner move.
he's a Windsor Spitfires fan.
Oh, wow. He's the only one.
Hey, look, they got in a lot of trouble for being way too aggressive.
Well, fair.
Uh,
You got to be something.
that was their claim to fame, was they were
That's true.
like,
I do remember that about them.
yeah, that was that we were too aggressive.
Yeah.
Lilith asks, what makes John Constantine such an appealing character to mirror? The Golden Boy, Old John from the C. Spurrier run, some interpretations of Tim Hunter. The list goes on.
Spurrier.
I knew it was fucking coming.
You idiot.
As I said it, I was like, well, there's no way that's right.
Maybe
He's gonna
Mirror Richard. I can tell you, Mirror Richard is literate. That's the.
fuck you.
Oh, no, sorry. I didn't say opposite.
You son of a bitch.
We're back, baby. Yeah, I'm not sure that I can remember the Old John one. The Golden Boy, though, is interesting. So, the Golden Boy, the idea of that is that John Constantine had a twin in the womb that died.
Oh.
And the spirit of that twin kind of haunts him and was sort of like responsible for his cancer and shit like that.
Oh, Jesus.
But on a parallel Earth, and this twin died kind of by accident, but like umbilical cord kind of thing.
Oh, my God.
But then like John's dad left because he blamed John for the other twin dying and all this. And it's like, then John grows up the way John grows up.
Yeah.
But on a parallel Earth, the Golden Boy lives.
Is the one that survives?
No, they both live,
Oh.
I think. Or maybe it's just the one that survives. Either way, though. No, I think they both live. But because of that, the dad doesn't leave. They grow up in this nice thing. And then the Golden Boy version of John becomes like this like amazing like archmage of magic that ushers in this amazing era for magic and stuff like that, like the greatest of the magi sort of thing.
I would prefer if it was more of like it works with like heaven rather than hell, but sure.
Well, that might be part of it too.
Oh, okay.
But it's like, but basically becomes like this great magician in a good way, not in the like dingy fucking dive club way that John does, right? So the Golden Boy on a parallel Earth is like a version of John that is like almost like Superman, like
Oh, wow.
grows up nice, learns the right lessons,
Oh,
does all
wow.
the like fulfills their ultimate potential, like all these things John doesn't do.
Yeah.
Which is an interesting idea. I mean, we're definitely playing with the nature versus nurture idea of like
Sure.
what is at the heart of John Constantine, which
Yeah.
I think is interesting. But as for the question, what is it about John that makes him? I mean, John is a compelling character because he's extremely layered. He's not just a character that doesn't give a shit. John gives a lot of a shit, but he's constantly he almost cares too much to the point where he meddles too much. Or he thinks he's the only one that should shoulder a burden, or that he's the only one that can, in a very Winchesterian way. I mean, the Winchesters, in many ways, inspired by Constantine as well, I would say.
Yeah.
He thinks very little of himself, but also cares very much for others. But then the front he puts up is that he doesn't care and that he is selfish. You know, like there's a lot of layers to John Constantine, and it makes him a deeply sad character. And I do think that I think there is something about sad characters that it's inherently more relatable than happy characters. And I'm not just saying this as a sad boy, but I think a character that acknowledges or wears some of their self-loathing is a thing we relate to because it's a thing we all try to not acknowledge.
Sure.
And so there's something captivating about a character that either willingly embraces or can't help but acknowledge those failings. Because we go like, oh man, like what if I admitted that to myself? I do think there's something sort of, you can't look away a little bit about a character like that.
Totally.
Yeah, the Golden Boy is weird. An interesting sort of thing. I can't remember precisely where in the Hellblazer run that is, but that's the rough idea of it, though. It's like it's like the good timeline version of John. Really, yeah, essentially. There you go.
All right, last question from Liam K. Willis, who asks, what mirror characters of prominent characters do you think aren't spotlighted enough as being mirrors? Like, on paper, it should make sense for them to be the mirror of said character, but it hasn't really been fleshed out or portrayed well.
I think we've really lost track of Ma'alefa'ak,
Sure.
Martian Manhunter's half-brother. There was an era where it was like, we know who this guy is. And then through like retcons and New 52 and a couple of different series and that, and people sort of reinventing, and then like Young Justice doing a weird version of it. I think we've lost a handle on Ma'alefa'ak as a character. He's not a red marsh. Like, I know I'm about to sound like a angry fanboy thing, but like, for me, the one that made the most sense is he is John's half brother. He doesn't have psychic powers. He's an abomination, like psychopath who caused the Hronmir's curse, plague of psychic fire that wiped out the Martian race.
Sure.
He's bad, right? And there was a thing I loved about that idea, and we've gotten further from it when we try to make him like, oh, he's a priest, or like, oh, they're not related, or oh, he's a brr, or whatever. And one of the best, like, even designed versions, I would say, is from Justice League Doom, the animated movie. Like, I like when he is like a tattered reflection of Martian Manhunter. Like, they should be like Flash and Reverse Flash. Like, they should look similar. They should be real mirrors of each other, kind of thing. Like, Ma'alefa'ak feels like a character we've totally lost the plot of, and I would love for someone to kind of bring him back. Let's swing back around to that version of him, because I liked it better. And I think it was interesting for Martian Manhunter to have a character like that isn't just like the generic white Martians or the Hyper Clan or something like that. Despero is an interesting kind of arch villain, like opposite villain kind of for Martian Manhunter, but Ma'alefa'ak is this very, like, in the way that Ocean Master is a very personal one for Aquaman, Ma'alefa'ak can be that for Martian Manhunter. That's one I'd like to see back, I think. Do you have one?
I mean, there's lots of characters I think that like could be mirrors and like never really were used effectively.
Right.
Like, I think, like, one that really pops in my mind is, like, Supergirl.
Right.
Which is, like, I mean, one, like, baseline gender, but, like, even going from there being the fact that it's, like, well, she grew up on Krypton. Like, she knows the ways of Krypton and was sent for the same purpose. It's, like, I mean, there's so much potential there.
A
as
total mirror character, just not a villain. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. But I think we really just lost the plot, and it just became like Superman's cousin, and it not really.
Even though I didn't hate it, I do think we got too caught up on the idea of she's angry Superman.
Yeah,
that became a defining characteristic of Supergirl, is that she's angrier than
she
is, which I didn't hate the nugget of, but when that became the only thing about her.
Yeah.
I think that became a bit of a problem.
I think that's a really significant one. And then another one is Red Hood, which is like in theory, it's like it's kind of like what they were doing with Green Arrow on the CW, which is like, what if you have the the Batman that kills, right? Like it's the version of him, but also like a kid who was raised in literally the same way because Bruce sort of like helped him become this character, and he chose the more violent direction. It doesn't really end that way. Like I think they end up.
I think there's a case to be made that Red Hood is also a reflection of Nightwing.
Totally.
Like,
yeah.
I think there's a real strong case, like more than the other Robins.
1,000%. Yeah.
And more than Red Hood and the other Robins.
Yeah.
It's like Jason and Dick
Yeah.
have a
totally.
thing.
And I don't think we've explored that well enough.
Not enough, I would say.
Yeah. Those are probably the ones that like stand out to me.
That's a good one. Yeah.
I mean, a weird one is like Mira and Aquaman, which like I like.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Like.
Well, I mean, Mira weirdly has her own too, which is Siren.
Sure. Yeah.
Her sister.
Yeah.
Like, there's a sort of. There's a weird kind of thing in general in the ocean. I think, with a lot of these characters, but like, yeah, Mira and Siren have a weird one too.
Yeah. But I think it's unfortunately a thing that they tend to do a lot is either they're villains or they're like, or there's sort of like one version of them gets sort of sloughed off, and it's like
I kind of liked the TV version of. This is a weird pull. I kind of like the TV version of Takamak.
Oh, really?
The Firestorm
Oh,
villain.
yeah.
Because they made him way more of a mirror to Firestorm than Takamak in the comics.
Yeah.
Where he was like, he had the potential for half the Firestorm Matrix, but had no one to fuse with.
That's
like,
super interesting.
Like, the show was onto something. Like, he was a one and done episode. But that was more interesting, I think, to me than Takamak in the comics ever was. And that might be like Firestorm has other mirror ones. Like there's Pojar over in Russia. That's kind of like Firestorm's mirror one too. But I don't know. That version of Takamak I thought was neat.
Totally.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that was the last question.
Nice.
If you residents want to ask a question for next week's episode,
I don't have one, but you're welcome to throw one out.
It's a month of episodes.
It sure is.
Where they're surrounded around stuff that's happened in a month.
If a thing happened in a month, this is the month for that thing.
That if you've ever wondered, like, what comics specifically like have come out in a month?
In a month.
Like this is
now's the time.
This is the one.
Yeah.
Let's do characters that involve sound.
Whoa, okay. Sound, audio, sound waves, vibrations. Yeah, baby.
We haven't done that.
I mean, even if we have, odds are we'll get new questions. Yeah.
Yes.
There you go. Sound, vibes.
Yeah.
All that kind of stuff.
Fucking vibing next episode.
Yeah, maybe with vibe even.
Holy shit.
Yeah, send your questions.
You can send them to all the places.
Dr. DC Podcast, wherever you find us.
And give us a 5-star review. Subscribe to our Patreon.
Patreon.com/DrDC. $1, $5, $7 level. They all give you access to the Docscord, our amazing Discord fan community. At the higher levels, you get the double dose. And at the highest levels, you get rewatch series like Toretto Talks, Bonding Time, or the current one, Cerebros, where we're going through all the X-Men movies.
You're not done those yet?
No.
How far in are you?
We're about to do The Wolverine.
Oh, God. Yeah.
And then Days of Future Past, then Deadpool. Like, we're about halfway.
Wow. Well, there you go. There's lots to imbibe.
Yeah, baby.
Also, we've got another podcast.
Ghostfacers, a Supernatural rewatch. We're going through every single episode of the CW Supernatural. We talk real world monster lore, behind the scenes stuff about the show. It's a good time. We made a bunch of like Scooby-Doo cuck jokes this week.
Yeah, so just like
go on over there for like a chill, cool time.
Yeah, just like turn on the podcast, curl up at the end of your bed, and let somebody fuck your wife. You know, doggy style.
Right, it. Adios.
Ciao.
Heroes. They always fight for what is right. Live with danger and adventure. They are men of might.
This was a Brain Freeze podcast.